listening to the Questionnaire.
Say that again.
You're listening to the Questionnaire.
I've just started.
Right here, for your ears, for your eyes.
The Questionnaire.
Get your comic on.
Poke it out, poke it out, poke it out, poke it out.
Peter Parker, you're not getting any younger. Yeah, neither is the unknown factor, ladies and gentlemen, but this is Quest. It is the Questionnaire. I've got the guest coming up here reminding me how much of a pain it is sometimes, I swear on my life. But whatever, that's besides the point. Right now, yeah, we got to bring in that co-host, man. Join us again for today. Man, wait, yeah, we're just going to... Vladimir Popov. Dude, is this only your second time co-hosting, or am I losing my mind?
Yeah, second time.
No,
The
so
glorious second time.
it's just you got a bunch of stuff
Hey,
booked
everyone.
coming up. Yeah, to where you're co-hosting then, right?
Yep. We did this before. This is a repeat business officially now, second time.
Look, I can't keep track, Vlad. I don't like look, I thought I forgot someone's interview because I seen a message. I was like, oh crap. And then I looked and I was like, oh, that's not till July.
Yeah, man, that's okay. Time is illusion, so you're good.
I know, but I can't have it be such an illusion that I miss guests, man, because otherwise, there's plenty we miss, man. Everything coming up. I hope you all have checked out the past few quests. Tim, Tony, Casey, Fabian, I don't know, man. All of season 2 has just been phenomenal, right? And I'm telling you, with me getting these extras posted up from the last episode, which was Fabian's, and the extras from this one, look, the Patreon is $1 a month, y'all, and I assure you, it is worth the amount of giggles you'll get from just those two, and Lord knows what else will happen in the future, yeah? But let's bring the Deadpool hater in the house, Ryan Cady. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you. As I say, I am Ryan Cady, and I hate fun, and we all know Deadpool is fun, so get him out of here. Happy to be on board. Ecstatic to be Vlad's second ever co-host.
Where's my other hat?
He's ready for the pressure.
My other freaking hat, man.
Double the excitement, triple the fun.
You're lucky I can't find my Deadpool hat right now, Ryan. I'm having to be like, hey Vlad, take this interview over while I scrounge my house for my Deadpool hat, just to torture Ryan here.
I mean,
Hey,
it's
but
not
I have to.
Deadpool merchandise in my home, like there's Deadpool stuff here. I got like a CGC Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe lying around somewhere back there. Like even through dislike, there's only so much I can dislike any comic book character,
Well, no.
But that's okay. That's okay. I mean,
Oh yeah, and
all the series and everything, like comics are a serious business, so that's totally legit, man.
it is.
Very serious and very legit.
Yeah, it is the second time that I've had that answered for as far as least favorite character being Deadpool. But I mean, if everybody goes and looks at my questionnaire, but Batman's been answered a couple times as well. I don't know. I can't keep track. I'd love to be able to make pie charts to some of these questions, because like the least favorite movies and comics, I think would just be interesting to see as a pie chart from creators as far as what you actually got outwise, man. But I think it's awesome because it, like Vlad said, I'm just messing with you. You can hate Deadpool, you can love Deadpool. I don't care. I'm sure there are people that are like, you don't like Batman? I'm like, not really, man. I'm sorry. Like, you can give me a Riddler story all day, though.
Riddler fucking rules, dude.
Yeah. Hey, I forgot to tell you. I forgot to tell you before we started the show, Ryan. We're trying to keep it PG. I know the extras aren't.
Love the friggin' Riddler.
Yeah.
He is
Yeah.
my favorite. I'll keep it PG. I can do that. I'll put more focus on that.
No, man, it's
Leave me
okay.
out.
I forgot to. I know I'm not. It's just gonna be there. You ought to see, like, it happens, and I accept that as a fact. And I normally, like, I just forgot to say that before we went live because you said that, and then I was like, it's like because I kind of wanted to. At that comment you said right before we went live, and I was like, the first line in this comic is sigh. So I'm just going into the show, and I didn't take time to explain myself properly. But there's a reason the name The Unknown Factor fits, and that's neither here nor there. So Ryan, let's just ask right off the bat, man. I want to know, like, what initially caused your love for comics, man? What's that thing that really made you step in? And in that, was there someone you found to be a mentor to you that was close that helped you get to that position?
Thank you for asking. I mean, you know, growing up, I was not allowed. I've said this on other podcasts. I wasn't allowed to collect single issues. My parents were like very anti-collectibles as a hobby. They really hated the idea of like a kid spending a bunch of money on like things that they thought he would throw away when he got older, which I think is totally fair. Like, you know, with obviously after years of every fad and like pods and Pokemon and all that stuff. Not that I was super into all that shit, but they were cautious anyway. So I remember really, for me, superheroes were like from cartoons and movies, and I was in love with those. And then, you know, I'd get like hand-me-down trade paperbacks and stuff like that. And in like second or third grade, I remember I made friends with a kid who had like every single issue of Walt Simonson Thor. And he was like upset. He didn't own like any other comics. He didn't give a shit about comics. He was obsessed. He didn't give a dang about comics. He was obsessed with Thor. And so I would go over to this guy, this kid Keegan. I'd go over to his house and I would read his Simonson stuff, and I'd be like blown away. I mean, truly, I was obviously watching, you know, all the DC shows. Obviously, the X-Men cartoon had come and gone and all that stuff. But this was a whole new level. This was like seeing superhero stuff and seeing what the medium of comics could do with it. And it was like my brain was clicking, and I would just go over to that dude's house all the time and just like rip through those. So I was like really attached. And as I got older, you know, I was reading trade paperbacks where I could. I still wasn't a single issue collector, and I always sort of joke that like I'm the New 52 success story. I know a lot of people feel weird about New 52, but that event is what got all of my friends and me back into collecting single issues. You know, like obviously we were adults now. We were allowed to just do. There was who gave a shit. Who gave a crap. There weren't parents anywhere. And like all my friends were like, everybody's buying single issues again. You can be a single issue collector, and it just sort of dawned on me. And I was buying all these New 52 issues. I was subscribing to all these series. I was going to my comic shop all the time, and there were all these in Southern California signings. And you know, all the New 52 guys. I remember once I went to a Batman signing, and Scott Snyder was there, Tynan was there, Adam Glass was there, Kyle Higgins, like all these guys who were working on these premier DC books, and it just sort of hit me like a lightning bolt. I had always wanted to be a writer. I'd been doing tons of writing my whole life, and I was like, oh, these dudes are writing the books. Like they're scripted. They don't know how to draw. Like they don't have the magic touch that you don't have. You can learn this medium. You can learn the rules of it. And so that just sort of dove me in headlong. And to roundabout answer your way, if I had to say like a mentor, I got an internship really early at Top Cow, and pretty much for the entirety of my early to mid 20s, everyone at Top Cow was a mentor. I'm really Matt Hawkins, Mark Silvestri, Brian Edward Hill, Betsy Gonya, Elena Salcedo, like all those people. I mean, really just helped introduce me to and expose me to this crazy, insane, beautiful industry we work in.
All I know is, man, everybody but that and I'd love to have Matt Hawkins back on, though, and shout out to Matt for being the first ever quest that was done, period, for this show. It was Matt Hawkins on. I'd love to have everybody else on as well as Matt back on. Huh?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, Matt was your first? That's so cool.
Yeah, he was. And not only that, but technically we had to... The only thing that really annoys me about that is we had a quest with Matt, and it was phenomenal. It was a great show. The audio did not record on it, so we had to do it again. Unfortunately, I don't think it was. I mean, it's still a good quest. I think it's fine, but I don't think it was as good as that first one. That first one just it had something, and it was one of those things that was just lost to the ether. That's happened a few times. Well,
it was the first one officially,
yeah. So, but yeah, because he came back again, and he was so technically the first ever episode or issue of this particular quest here. No one will ever see it because
it's just for you.
I mean, I got to have the experience of chatting with Matt, and yeah, it was a pleasure, but But man, and that's happened a couple times, man. I think it was even, I want to say it was Skylar Parrish. I had an extremely long conversation with her, and I forgot to start recording until like 30 or 45 minutes in. So,
You recording this now?
No, not at all, Vlad.
Thank you. All right. Some more curse
Just
words.
checking. Yeah.
No, because Ryan, I stopped recording after Ryan dropped the third curse word. I'm like, this ain't working.
Yeah, this is
I mean,
rough. We're getting really cool, We're like Showtime at the Apollo.
I'm curious though.
The drop rate of the quest item was very low on this one. Yeah.
Hey man, look, like Tim. Between you and Tim, this show's having a hard time maintaining PG. Ryan, that's all I'm gonna say. But whatever. But I want to know, as a writer, man, right? So when you got into that, because we recently had Fabian on with Erica co-hosting. You guys can check that episode; it's just back. But we got into the discussion of of the difference between writing an outline for an artist as opposed to writing full script. What do you do when you're writing for an artist?
Well, I would love to write an outline, but I have like gifted kid syndrome, broken brain, where like if my script feels too short, I start getting really guilty and I get all fucked up and I have to go back and pad it out. So no, my approach, I write mostly full script, but when I do the sort of outline Marvel style, I'll do that a lot for fights, for fight scenes, because like obviously there are beats I want to see, but even the most like just starting out journeyman artist is going to have a much better idea of how to choreograph a fight than I am. I mean, that's just like a skill set I don't have. So I try to do Marvel style for that. Oh, sorry, what were you saying?
Well, I'm curious because you say Marvel style. And the reason that statement makes me so curious is because in the conversation with Fabian and Erica, they're saying Marvel wants a full script. That's what they demand. They don't want any kind of outline. So you're throwing me off saying that they want an outline for that in regards to when I just had that conversation. You know what I mean? That's more where my brain's just like, what?
Marvel style is an old term we use. It doesn't really apply anymore, but it's still the term we use.
Okay.
It was coined around 60s, 70s when
Stan Lee
started working in Marvel. They were designing all the stuff. So basically,
yeah. I just wanted to make sure.
Like, let's do something cool.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't understand that you were talking about it previously, so I understand.
No worries. To sort of like be more specific about it, like I try to treat all my scripts whenever I can. I treat them as a conversation between me and the artist. I'm basically talking to the person who's building this whole world. So it's for them. I'm just trying to keep them engaged. I'm trying to, describe things in a way that sounds interesting and inspires them to create the most, interesting scene they can. But most of the time it's full script. I'm doing panel descriptions, I'm doing dialogue, but I'm writing the panel in a way that it's as if I would be, hopefully as if I would be like describing it to them. But for when I get to, again, maybe a fight scene or other stuff or a sequence that I want to do Marvel style, what I would do for that is I would do let's say it's 3 pages. I'd say like page 17 to page 19. And I would put, it's a fight scene. And I would write sort of like, hey, these are the guys that are fighting. This is what's at stake. These, someone should have this person on the ropes by this moment, and she should use this power, and it should end with a big climactic, and maybe I'll be like, oh, the final panel should be like blank. But other than that, when it's a sequence like that with action or whatever, that I have done the outline or Marvel or whatever, the artist knows better than me on that kind of thing. So I want to lean on their knowledge and expertise.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. You just really threw me off when you said the Marvel way, because I know the Marvel way is one of the ways that very much helped make it to where comics could just be pushed out at, I think, a more rapid pace. But what they do now is obviously very, very different from what they did in like the 60s and 70s and 80s even. Because I mean, if you guys want to hear that, Fabian and Erica get all. I swear I've never spoke less on an episode, Vlad. It was so funny. It was
Yeah, but it's more like a coined term, and it's kind of like tossed in the nostalgia moment when we talk about scripts and everything. But Ryan and I worked together on a few books, and his scripts are really top notch, and everything is detailed. So like you can pick what you want, and no, it is. I mean, like I like to read them all. Like I like to read all the details and like search like there was no timeline on this panel. Like is it a noon or is it like a evening? How am I supposed to color that one? So I gotta like show me some grayscale or something like that. So but yeah, you did a lot of details and everything. So and I think that really helps, especially when we have all the tight deadlines, especially on the coloristic side. On the colorist side, like we are the last in production line. So basically, it's always like here's a bunch of pages right now, like do it for yesterday, but like that kind of style. So it really helps when we get all those details, and even if you let something out of imagination and everything. So like I think that's cool. So you're like really good with with all those details and everything. So you're fine, man. You're doing great.
You as well. Likewise, I was gonna, we don't need to compliment you any more than I'm sure you already have been. But genuinely, Vlad, I'm like, the fact that you were like, damn, like I absolutely need to look at the script because I want to actually fucking have this stuff on lockdown. But really, like, also, I don't know, you're talking about these deadlines when you and I, especially in times, have been like up against the wall, and it's been like, I don't know what we're gonna do, man. We have no time to get this stuff in, and you are like saying a workhorse makes it sound like you're like not saying that all you have is that you work hard. You work hard and produce incredible quality work. Like I let's see if I can try and grab a Vlad book.
MGK's the Hotel Diablo. That's the one.
Yeah. Do I have any of the? These are all my. Oh, it's sealed. It's vacuum sealed. But
it's okay.
Vlad.
have you read it? Man, look, I don't know. I guess it's part of, I don't know if y'all can notice the background. All my pops are just out now. There's nothing in the box because I was like, mainly because I went to PopCon and I seen my boy buy we got probably $40 or $50 in Hot Wheels. It equated to I don't know, 10 Hot Wheels maybe at most, right? Something, I don't know, because we were at the con and these, you got the Flintstones and just the cool ones that are really rare, and then instantly just rip. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it, boy. You're right. Toys are meant to be played with, not left in the box. I can't take none of this with me when I go. It should look cool now, and that's just the end of it. So take the wrap off, Ryan.
Well, it's the book I worked on. I don't want it to get dirty. I don't, But yes, in general, I agree. They are toys to be played with. They are books to be read. I never forget. It was like my second or third day as an intern at Top Cow, and we had gotten in these sort of like old school steel covers of Aphrodite 9, and they were, they had like a steel book, kind of like a steel plate for the cover. Not steel, it was probably like aluminum, but we were like marveling over them, and I'm just like, I'm all the way in it. I'm like, I feel so lucky to be here. Oh my gosh. And Matt comes in, Matt Hawkins, and he's like all excited. He's like, oh, these came in. He's like looking at him. He's like, oh, this turned out great. He's flipping through it. And you could like that Key and Peele sketch where Jordan Peele is like slowly sweating more and more as like the sketch goes on. I'm like watching him like flip through this brand new test of this book that we're going to be selling for a lot because it's like a really limited printing. He's like, oh yeah, it looks good, blah, blah, blah. He's like going through it, and I'm like sweating more and more. And then he's like, yeah, okay, pretty cool. And he rolls it up and sticks it in his back pocket. And like, I was so like, no, you can't do that. What? And less than a month later, I was like, he's the smartest man in the world. It doesn't fucking matter. It's just a book.
That was a test book. I mean, like, that was a test subject.
Yeah.
Man, can I say though, between you and Tim Seeley, it is going to be really hard to keep this show PG. So let's just, dude, you are worse. No, Ryan, you are worse
Yeah.
than I am, all right? And I've got the worst mouth of anyone on this show. If I just let it go, I'm pretty sure. Vlad, what do you think?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. I mean, I don't mean to
You're
like look,
clean,
right?
man.
But
You're
whatever.
You're
That's not
clean
my point,
yourself
right?
from season
So,
1.
since you're gonna keep throwing the F's and the S's out, right? We're gonna get into something that we did with someone that just did that previously. Again, that being Tim Seeley. I ain't beeping all that crap out, Vlad. I got enough to edit. I don't have time to do that. Are you out of your flipping mind? Like, what is? No. Oh my, Vlad. If you want to beep it, you can beep it, but I ain't beeping it. If y'all you want to imagine when someone says a curse word, just imagine a beep. All right, come on. We're humanity.
Yeah. We good.
I don't. I can't. I don't. I'm trying to get out all this stuff. Vlad, stop messing with me. But like I said, to the two gentlemen on season 2 that have been very profane, right? We're going to get into a topic with you that we got in with the other, which is just the general state of the comic book biz, man. Because if you look at it, talking
What I
about
wanna what
huh?
I wanna dive in, Ryan is alien. That's what I wanna dive in.
You was wearing Alien?
He's an
Yeah,
alien.
alien. Like, yeah. Tell us about it. Like you wrote a book for Marvel, Alien, right?
I mean, seriously, like, guys, I'll level with you. Like, we try really hard as creators to, like, you know this, Vlad, like, to try not to, like, lick the boot and be too grateful or excited to work on characters that we love. But I got to be honest, when I got the opportunity to work on Alien, Black, White, and Blood, I was like running around this house, like pumping my fist in the air, screaming, texting every ex-girlfriend I have, being like, "Did you know they're letting me write Alien? My dream has come true."
Wait, now what issue are you in of
I,
that?
huh?
Which issue?
Alien, Black, White, and Blood, issue 1.
Okay, I look. I ain't gonna lie. That's like in my pool box, but it's the one that I haven't picked up yet because they're $8 books.
I mean, truly, I don't expect anyone to read. Only psychos live the way I used to live, which is, having almost every Marvel and DC book on your pull list like an insane person. That's not a normal way to live. You can't do that. You gotta look out for yourself. I don't expect anybody to read.
How do you even read that much?
You don't. They just sit in your house. And if you're lucky, you read 1 or 2 of them when you get a chance.
You read a graphic novel, man.
That's the future, baby. I don't know. I like a plot. It's really beautiful about the single issue.
Yeah.
I think it's a truly magical, very American thing.
Yeah, there we go.
But I do. There is like a practicality to this that appeals to, my grown ass in his 30s. There's not a lot of room for these short boxes, man. But some things you gotta. I don't know. I'm sure you feel the same way, Vlad, and I'm sure you do as well. When you're getting some things, just like get that single issue, and you're like, oh, this is like a special like this only exists. This isn't designed to stand the test of time. This is like a fleeting relic,
Yeah.
I will say
I have a few of those. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I initially started back up, man, I hadn't been really into comics for a while. I'd read them from the library, but it'd been a long time since like I went and purchased comics until I'd say, I don't know, a couple months before the show, probably. I started doing it, and I was like, I'm just getting graphics. That's what I told myself, is I am just going to purchase graphic novels for exactly all the things you said, mainly because, like, they go way better on a bookshelf. They're way more contained. There's not as much room taken up more than anything else. And then I kept running the show, and then then Tony Fleece sent me Local Man, like, 2 months before it was supposed to come out. And I was like, I have to wait 3 months for the next issue of this because I sure crap wasn't waiting for the graphic. And now I've got a little pull list. So yeah, I fully understand. It is also the nice, like, the continuation. I think it's also my brain runs on so many different tracks. It's nice. I'm reading 10 different stories, and they all have one episode a month within them from that particular comic. And I don't know, my brain just is kind of totally cool with running a story like that, you know? I think that's also something that's unique among people that read comics. I don't know, man. It's like I said, I think it's interesting how much it's turned to a collector's market. You know what I mean? Like how many, like the fact that I know from talking to all the guys that run the local comic shop that I go to. You can catch Dave with me on This Week in Comics when we manage to do them. Sometimes it's rough, but that's over live on the Facebook. And then you can catch him co-hosting some past episodes over here on season 2 as well. But talking to them, I know for a fact there's people that come in and they buy the comic, bag and board it, never read it. That, like, look, and if you're buying like the regular issue and then you're buying like the 1 in 25 and 1 in 100 and you don't mess with that one, fine. You're literally getting a comic and you're never gonna read it though. Like, why? Are you gonna go? Oh, I about said something I really shouldn't have. I'm gonna, yeah. Whoa. That one
Somebody
would have
from
been.
the family might read it, somebody, someone gonna inherit it. So, who knows?
It's just, but it's odd to think. So, what do you? I'm just curious.
You can hide it in the wall, and then when you sell your house, somebody can like stumble upon it when they're like gonna destroy the wall and build a new kitchen there.
But what do you think of that, though, Ryan?
Mystery comic.
As far as how it's turned
Sorry?
into what do you think as far as how it's turned into a collector's market? And there are people that don't view it so much as a story; they just view it as something to collect.
I don't know. It's a bummer. I mean, a part of me, I have to live in the world that I live in. Like as much as I'd love to exist in like the post World War II market where everybody and their mother walked down to the newsstand and bought an issue of something. Like I would love that, but I don't live in that world. And really that world hasn't existed for ages. I mean, we're looking at we still talk about the 90s collecting boom like it was recent history, and it's not. That's not
30 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about it was a couple years ago, and I just it bums me out. Would I prefer a world where people were showing up in droves every Wednesday, grabbing their single issues, reading them, and trading them with their friends casually, because that's what we used to do. I bring up the New 52 thing again. I was probably following 8 or 9 series, and I had 4 or 5 friends that were following 8 or 9 series, and we were friggin' trading them back and forth constantly. Like we didn't, we got suckered into collectors mentality all the time.
But New 52 was 12 years ago, 13 years ago. Like that was like ages.
I'm doing
before.
the same thing. I'm doing the exact same thing that I'm complaining about with people with the 90s, and I'm doing with New 52. But I guess to broad strokes answer your question, man, and it bums me out. In a perfect world, I would just be connecting with people who read the work and cared about it. But I'm also not gonna shake my fist at. I think collecting is silly, and I don't think it is a healthy way to engage with art in general, personally. But that's me. I'm not gonna critique those people and tell them to go screw themselves when they're helping keep this industry afloat.
Now I'm curious, just in the way you worded that, as one particular part, being that you said you don't feel collecting art is the appropriate way to appreciate it, right?
Yeah.
So like this piece behind me, right? That's part of my collection. Now, mind you, this was gifted to me by Mike Ruth. He did it on the show. So there's also like a memory from me of Mike was on the show. I got to watch him do this live while we BS'd. He'll be coming up again on another PanCon drawing something else really cool with another collection of individuals. But so I guess there's that personal connection to me for that too. So I guess that's slightly different, and that don't work in the case that I'm referring. But like, say
huh? No, I was just gonna say but that's totally different, right? I mean, like I have in my room, like over 24 original art pieces that I've collected, but those are all either things that series was really important to me, or I worked on a book with an artist who did that. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people who are speculating, who are treating these works, who are treating these stories as if they're commodities and not engaging with the art at all. You're collecting art in
the capitalistic way of doing art.
Exactly. I didn't want to get on my leftist commie soapbox here, which I'm not.
Well, while we're at it,
but genuinely, it's sort of like treating, not appreciating the art and the story, but rather viewing it as just purely a commodity, purely an investment, or even purely a collectible in the sense that they don't, people who don't care about the story or the art or the creators or the greater legacy are just like, this has blank value, or this is rare, so I want it, that sort of thing.
Okay. I misconstrued exactly what you meant when you said that initially. That's why I wanted an elaboration on it, because what you said makes an entire amount of sense. I just initially thought you meant it in a different way, but even in because I'm annoyed I didn't get to Artist Alley at PopCon, but when you got a 4-year-old dragging you around, things can be tricky. What are you gonna do? But since we're all gonna go that route, we're all gonna, you're all gonna get up on your leftist high horse, right? I got a feeling.
I'm a coastal elite.
I got a feeling that this is gonna make him just like a little bit, Vlad, based on what he just said. What do you think of AI art?
I fucking hate it. The robots were supposed to, I don't know, do menial labor. The whole point of art is that you make it. So, look, I don't know. Obviously, we have to, look, all of this stuff is nuanced. All of this stuff is more complicated than we talk about it online. We love to just tribalize and be like, I feel this way, so obviously I'm 100% here and you're 100% there, and we have to be like this and blah, blah, blah. And it's so silly. The internet turns us into like enemies for no reason. But the bottom line is, look, creating art is meaningful. The experience of learning to create art is meaningful. It is good for you. It matters. And I'm not saying that using AI tools, you could never make art. I'm not saying that there's no place in the future at all for these artistic tools. But what I'm telling you is that falling for a very obvious and shameless capitalist scheme to steal a bunch of artists' hard work and turn it into a computer program, that's not it, y'all. That's not the right move. That's bad. And when we were promised the AI revolution future that we were looking toward is not a world where we just use robots to do all the stuff that we should be enjoying doing and experiencing and bettering ourselves doing. It just seems so silly to me that we're even having this conversation. Not you and me, but that like as a broad cultural conversation. It's so silly that I think even if you want to go back in time to like the 1950s, like the peak of the retrofuturist era, when everybody's at their most center-right, capitalist, laissez-faire mindset, I think even all of those people would be like, what do you mean you got robots making the stories? No, the robots are supposed to do the hard work. Why would you get the robots doing the art? That's all backwards. And at the end of the day, that I understand that it's more complicated than that, but I do think at the end of the day, that's sort of just like where I'm at and why I'm flabbergasted. I'm like, you want the computer to do the fun part? You want to take away the most important, the artistic journey, the experience that is so like important to the human experience, and you just want to like, I don't know, like copy paste? Okay. So I don't know. That's my take.
You're not wrong. I mean, AI is a great tool, but it's not a great tool for art, actually. So we need it. The whole point is the human experience. But he can do wonderful things in some other things, some other industries, and medicine, science, hard labor, all of that stuff. But in this area, it's not going to do good. But as we saw recently, there were affairs, there were things about it, like there were miscalculations big time. So like it happens. So nothing's perfect. So there we go.
What do you
But
mean
yeah,
miscalculations?
definitely.
What do you mean miscalculations in peak time? What do you mean, Vlad? I don't.
Well, I saw online like there were a lot of talks about a few pieces that were kind of like maybe AI, maybe not. A few kind of like higher ranked books. So
Oh,
you can check it online, like on Bleeding Cool and CBR, all the
yeah.
news.
'Cause
So yeah,
I'm pretty sure, if memory serves, one of them was Batman, because it just got brought up on the show by a guest. Actually, you know. Um, yeah. So I'm like, oh, that happened. Well, I try to keep myself away from the negativity on all that tip. I had enough of it when I ran an online radio and dealt with hip hop artists. So I'm just gonna, when there's negativity in the comic books scene and I see it, I'm like, oh, go that way. I don't, yeah.
yeah,
But I do understand.
yeah. But as like I just wanted to finish, like as Ryan said, like we as humans, are the ones who should be telling the stories, because we want to hear that, we want to experience stories from our perspectives. Like I want to see your story, Ryan's story. I want to tell my story. Like that's how we learn. We learn for ourselves by doing art. Like you find about each piece of you when you put something out, like that came from your inside, from your unconscious. Like you never know where it came from, but like maybe that's the gene from your grandmother, like when you like wrote that dialogue, or so that's how we evolve as humanity. Like, so you can do that with AI.
Yeah, no, and I fully
It's a
agree.
medicine, but you cannot create like unique
Yeah,
artwork.
yeah, I fully agree, and I only asked that question like that, Ryan, because I was like, I bet he's got opinions. Let's hear him. You know, let's hear him.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I try so hard to be not spicy and inoffensive, and I think of myself as such like a mild, genial milk toast guy, but these days it's harder and harder not to get fired up.
I mean, it's an
There we
interesting
go.
time to be alive. That's for certain, and I think
Yeah.
your age will give you a different perspective. Like, I think if man, I don't know, like, if I mean, because I'm 40, so I can only imagine being 60 and being able to see that 20 years pass before that, and then you know what I mean, as far as how much society has changed within everything. And I think you can look, that's affected so many things, up to and including obviously the top comic book market, because you're sitting here, you're dropping a webtoon. Look, like, webtoons is the thing. Like, if you told someone, like, if you walked up to Stan Lee, right, when he was like just starting, just getting Marvel really going, Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, Iron Man, Spider Man, all that. Like, they were just him, Ditko, and Kirby. They were all just really getting. And you walked them all in the room, and you're like, "Hey, look, one day people are gonna read your comics, all like, you know what a TV is, right? They're gonna have like a tiny TV in their hand, and that's how they're gonna read their comics." If you told them three that back in the day when they were starting that, they'd probably look at you like you were the craziest SOB they had ever met. And just, dude, just, can you go and let us write our books? I don't know what you're talking about. These are on paper, and that's the way they come out. They're at the newsstands. They think you were probably just a lunatic, right? But that's what it is now. And there's so much of the market that is just that. And then on top of that, you've got people running their own independent comics through crowdfunding, which it's turned into a thing that people will crowdfund each individual issue of their comics so they can release them like that. And I've heard people say that's technically not what Kickstarter was initially started for, but that's what the comic book community has used it for, right? So you have all these things that through technology, they've changed the market so much and so drastically, right? Do you think overall that technology has had a positive effect on comics? Or do you think if they all were just still books or, floppies or otherwise, do you think it would be better for them?
I mean, no question, positive. Look, I might be attached as anybody in this room to the single issue. I think the single issue is so friggin' beautiful, and it makes me so happy to flip through one in my hands. But at the end of the day, anything that propels the medium of comics forward is a good thing. And we're looking at a world where so many people from so many different, I'm not speaking from like my woke lifty position. I'm just speaking like literally so many different people from so many different backgrounds all around the world are like, oh yeah, I guess I could make a comic. I've always drawn. Why not? Like I think it is such a net positive in every way. The only thing to be sad about is that the single issue market has gone down. And it's a bummer that the single issue market has gone down, but in every other way, comics are better, more vibrant, more beautiful, more varied. I mean, the thing about webtoons is that there are things you can do in that vertical strip format that you could never do in a single issue. And obviously there are a billion things in a single issue you could never do in that vertical strip. But it's the back and forth, the push and pull, and I also, obviously, if you want to talk about web comics, they don't all have to be the vertical strip. You can do the normal 8x11 format. But truly, I think we're only looking at a net gain for the art, the artists, the readership. Everything is better. Any of the problems to me are sort of more industry focused or industry based in terms of the art, the medium, the creators, what we get, who we get it to, all gains, all positive.
You don't think there's a single negative in all of that out of curiosity? Like, really? Not even one?
Again, the negative is that again, the single issues sell less, but is that because of webcomics? I don't think so.
No, I'll tell you what I personally think that is more than anything. If we're going to be just downright honest about it, Ryan, it's the fact that if you look at minimum wage, the cost of milk, and the cost of a comic book, and we can just compare that from the 1970s to this year, and then look at the percentages, and y'all can go do the math if you want. I'm not. But it should be fairly obvious as far as just looking at that. And I think that, more than anything, has greatly affected the entertainment industry, is the fact that people just typically don't have the amount of disposable income they did in the past. Therefore, you're not going to go to a film. You're not going to buy a comic. You're not going to XYZ, whatever. I think that is something that has a greater impact than most people ever have any thought about, really, as far as within specifically the comic book market, because people look at the comic book market and they say that it's always been in a living, dying cycle. Like comics have always done this, like constantly,
like everything.
Yeah, well, and
That's
that's true.
To agree with you, genuinely, that's so naive. I agree with you 100%. Like comics has not done this. Comics has done this. I mean, for God's sake. I mean. In the 40s, 50s, 60s, I mean, the numbers are so much lower, and they have been they get lower and lower with each decade. And
yeah, but if we look the progress, like from the 50s to now, if you go to the comic book history and like the world history, actually, like you had like 3 radio stations and like 1 television station 70 years ago. And comics, actually, I don't know how much you guys investigated the history of comics. I did recently because of my other projects that I'm working on. So comics initially in US, comics started around 1890s, like the late 19th century, as 1 panel first. And then by the Swiss guy, Rudolf Steindler or something like that, that was the first initial thing. And then he figured out like, okay, maybe I can put another, made it 3 to 4. And then like the next 30 years, it was just, the panel strips. Then somebody figured out, okay, let's make it like a full book. And that's how the, single issue was born in like the 1920s and everything. And then out of that, it went. But the whole mission of comics back then was to actually unite the immigrants and to educate them and to like entertain them and bind them with the same ideologies, because they were like, like all the worldwide immigrants were coming to the States, and they were collecting to each other. So when you had like the Yellow Kid or Chicago Defender or all those old stuff, all those comics, they were telling the stories of those immigrants. So that's how they bonded, and that's how it went, and that's how you got the reading experience and everything. So when we went, the progression into the 50s, into the 70s, you had all those curves. But now that we have like in the new age, modern way, where you have like a billion TikToks and the video games and binging and like 10 different TV subscription, apps to download and watch TV, like, there is a natural curve down that, comics are going to be a niche, and people who love them are going to buy them. But then again, when you look at the manga, and when you look at the graphic novels, like that market is booming up. Like last year when we were in New York, like I went to the panel upstairs for the insider talk and like saw the data and analytics, and like graphic novels like were like the selling big time, like especially manga. And now when you read manga is like 250 pages long story, so you have more time in a comic book to get yourself immersed, to get yourself like accustomed to the story, to the characters, to bond with the all of that, opposed to, for example, 80 pages where we all have to do like do that, like a lot of plotting, a lot of action, and we don't get like there's a different kind of story. So there is that connotation why single issues can be like sometimes going down, and graphic novels going up, and I'll connect that to different storytelling and binging and everything, like in today's modern world, like ADHD and all that stuff, like lack of attention and all that. So and there you can kind of like see the situation why the market is doing down up and all that.
Well, it's funny you say all that, Vlad, because then I can't. I think it might have been Jimmy Robinson. I might be wrong in who that. I think it might have been Jimmy we're talking. But ostensibly, when you're doing a single or a comic, you're doing a run, and you're putting out single issues. The real goal is to get to where you can put out a graphic novel, because that is technically where you end up making money. And I do think that has a lot to do with the whole binge aspect that society has become. Everybody wants it like that. So I think there are a lot of people that would never have patience for single issue collecting and single issue reading, because that means you have to wait another month to continue the story in every story that you're reading. So I think there's definitely that aspect of it. Did you find that, Ryan, any as far as like with what you're doing? Did you ever find like when you finally got to the graphic and were able to release it, that's where you made more dime?
I mean, honestly, yeah. I mean, where I'm at, a lot of stuff just sort of ends up sort of neutral. I mean, those graphic novel sales are huge, and at the end of the day, it's a much easier sell to anyone in a bookstore or at a convention. At a convention, it's with the exception of obviously like insider collectors. Most people, it's such an easier sell to be like, hey, this is the whole story, or hey, this is the first 80 pages of the whole story. This is a complete story arc. Sort of going off of what Vlad was saying, I mean, we're really, it starts with television, but really a sort of new media environment. Like, of course, people are sort of like, okay, is this at least one whole story arc? And the idea of, as much as we all are like, hell yeah, I want a single issue. Hell yeah, I want episode 1 on Wednesday, and then a month from now I get episode 2, because I think that's cool, because I'm reading like 40 of these. This is awesome. I totally understand why people are like, you're telling me I can only get episode 1. I'd like to at least get the first season. It's just an easier sell on people, and again, the Hollywood connection. You're sort of we're sort of dancing around. You can't really pitch a single issue to anybody, but you can be like, look, here's your first season of television. Here's your first movie. Here's your first 5 issues of a book that tells a concise story that may lead to more. So.
That's true as far as if you are pitching, because I mean, you can obviously, for anyone and everyone, you can tell that the film and TV have definitely picked up way more things comic related than they ever have in the span of the history of humans. Um, I mean, they're not to say there haven't always been comic book shows on TV, because there have. I mean, there's that. I think it's the Japanese Spider-Man, or maybe it's the Chinese Spider-Man that I seen at one point. That still kills me when I think about it. Like, wow, I can't. You know, yeah, I can't believe they did that. Because they did it without. It wasn't actually Spider-Man. It was just it. Go look up I believe it's Japanese Spider-Man for all you out there. It was weird.
Spider-Man, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, now you've got everybody picking up everything, and the fact that Marvel did what they did with the MCU, and then DC was like, oh wait, we can make a whole universe. So they've collectively made it to where they're not selling any of their properties. You can obviously see where they're reaching out now, realizing that comic books are a market they can use, but they're getting, they can't get Marvel or DC now, so they're having to go other places. And I think that's really interesting. But I think what's really interesting about it, and like I said, we've discussed this with several creators on the show. If you look, that doesn't tend to drive the sale of the comics. Now, I'm curious, why do you think that it doesn't? When, in the case of, like, say, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy comes out, the book sales go up. Game of Thrones all comes out, people love it. The book sales go up. Lord of the Rings and all that comes out. A bunch of people go buy the books. You know what I mean? Why do you think it does that for books, but not for comics in any fashion?
Well, I mean, partially because of all those things come out and are available at bookstores that everybody goes to, and on Amazon that everybody uses. Everybody reads books. I mean, not everybody, obviously, but everybody. You know what I mean? You're talking about things that didn't dwindle. Comics has, I don't know why. I wasn't around charting the market trends then or anything like that, but comics has pretty much since the 90s become more and more of a niche collector thing. That is this sort of perception of the industry outside. That's how outsiders feel. And I think the reason it doesn't make a dent, like the MCU doesn't make a dent in comic sales. I mean, honestly, I think a big part of that is failure to capitalize. I don't think that those companies did a good job on. I think it was really silly to not have single issue comics being given out for free at every single one of those showings of every single one of those movies. And it's easy for me to say that looking back. It's really easy for me to say that as like a random writer who doesn't have to deal with the logistics of that. But it feels like the most absurd no-brainer that they were not handing out. Oh, look, it's Jason Aaron and Ed McGuinness's Avengers #1 coming out at the same time as we have Avengers Endgame coming out. Crazy. You can have it for free. Go to your local comic shop and buy it. Or, hey, you don't want to go to a comic shop because you think that's weird? That's fine. If you look at this single issue, there's a free digital download code and you can subscribe to our thing. And now you can get all the issues for free on your phone. I just think in general, it's not that it's not that companies did a bad job. It's that they had an opportunity to build a generation of new fans and didn't capitalize on that. Again, easy for me to say, I wasn't in those rooms, but in general, I think when you have entire generations of teenagers obsessed with Tom Hiddleston's Loki, and you're not getting any of them to buy a single Loki book, I'm not saying that's on you, but oops. You had an opportunity and you didn't take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And now I'm fired and never getting hired again.
No. Well, I have a question for both of you, actually, when it comes to single issues, because that's more of your domain, because single issues is mostly US thing. What if, for example, this is something that I haven't seen that any publisher did before, like. What if you have, for example, a miniseries or maxi series, say 12 issues, and you only do single issues? There is no trade ever, like, only single issues. And the only way people to go and, follow the story is to buy single issues. So it's kind of like a cut on the publisher to go and say, we're not going to do trade. We're just going to go single issues, but, people will be able to follow that story that way, the old school, and then that's the only way you can get it. Like, I think maybe that could like bring the passion back to people, because they would know consciously or subconsciously, like, there is no trade. He cannot binge and wait to get the whole story. He has to buy 12 months in a row, 12 issues, and then read them like in a stack. He can binge that way. Maybe that would that's like a bringing back the old collection way of doing reading things.
What's your thoughts on that, Ryan? Because I definitely have mine based on a lot of prior conversations I've had with people.
As much as Ryan, the guy, loves that and is like, fuck yeah, I love that. I think that looking to the past will only doom us. I think we have to look forward. I think we have to be more circumspect. I think we have to look at what readers want, look at what attracts readers. I don't think appealing to collectors is the way to go at all. I think that we've become dependent on the idea of collectors and collecting mentality, and I think that publishers are all dependent on 1 in 100 variants and crazy store exclusives and all this stuff. And I think that anything that reflects that mindset of this is rare, you have to get it now, it is wrong. I think we have to look at what the ways that people consume media today. We have to look at what is the best way to get our stories out to people and get the most people reading them as much as possible, rather than sort of leaning on outdated ideas of what attracts readers, creates value, in terms of getting the most people interested in as much of our work as possible, I guess.
My answer is capitalism. Because if you don't print the graphic novel, you're going to make less money. And that's all it boils down to.
Why? Well, why?
Because
will you? Because that's the thing. If you know that you can only buy a single issue, and that's how you're gonna, keep up with the story, then the retention is not gonna be such a low. You won't have such a huge drop, because that's the only way to follow up the stories. People would be
the only way
interested. If you go to 5 issues and invest, he's gonna go and invest 5 more. He's not gonna drop on.
Yeah, the only way, Vlad, that would work is if you did it with Spider-Man or Batman.
Of course.
And I don't, beyond those 2 characters, I don't know there's another character you could do that with in the industry right now. And it worked to where you would get enough of sales in those 12 issues, and people would order them and wanted you to reprint issue 1 again and again, so you could get it back to where, because if you try to do that with an original story, there's not, I don't think you'll ever get enough to where you would make the same amount as if you had 2 graphic novels with that entire story as well. You know what I mean? But if you did it with either Batman or Spider-Man, I specifically say those 2 characters because I know, you know what I mean, as far as there are people that just buy Batman, there are people that just buy Superman, and they literally do not buy any other comic. I mean, there's probably people out there that just buy X-Men too, but they probably don't buy every X-Men book, that they just buy. But there are people that buy all Spider-Man, all Batman. So I think if you did it with one of those 2, you would have the best chance of doing it. Now, I don't think that would roll over and help everyone else. I think that would just be like, oh, well, they did that this one time, and I don't think they could then proceed to push and do it with either the rest of DC or Marvel respectively, even if that was successful. I think it's way too big of a risk. I think those companies, they would never do, dude, it's such and you know what, Books A Million, Barnes and Noble, they ain't ever going to carry all that. You know what I mean? They're not. They're not going to carry the monthly comics from even Marvel and DC. They might carry a few. They're not going to carry every book that Marvel and DC drop in a month. It's never going to happen, right? Which is sad, but it's not. I mean, there are comic book stores that don't carry all that for reasons. You know what I mean? Because even in different demographics, different stuff sells different amounts depending on where you are, wherever. So. Yeah, no, and But that, and I mean, the graphics collectively are cheaper, than having to buy every single issue. So, I mean, some people look
Yeah.
at it that way. I mean, there's so many different facets. I think you could do that as a one-trick pony with one of those two characters with a story arc. And then people would probably demand the graphic novel so much that after a few years they'd end up printing it and they would sell an absolute crapload. I don't think the companies would ever hold to it unless the writers and artists on that book had a specific contract with them, and it was like, you cannot put this out, right? I mean, but let's be honest, there are people that made comics for companies and they didn't want them made into films. And hey, we all know how that went. You know what I mean?
You live by capitalism, you're gonna die by capitalism, and however you feel about capitalism, that is the way it works. So,
there is no perfect system.
of course, but yeah, that is the you put really the nail on the head with that. Is if you created that sort of thing and it worked and people were really into it, how long could you put off the inevitability of the collected edition that destroys the entire purpose of the whole thing?
3 years max.
Yeah.
Years max. Oh, it's so depressing. But
3 years max, man, because you're going to be talking about Warner Brother and Disney, right? And they're gonna think if that story did that well, okay, we need to get the graphic novel out. So in 2 or 3 years later, after that graphic novel drops, we can make it a film.
Yep.
That's just how that cookie will crumble, y'all. I'm sorry, you don't get that one. That thing went.
No.
That thing went down the front of Cookie Monster. He was trying to eat it, but
Well,
it don't ever work. All right.
those two companies are the ones that are actually shaping everything. So, I'm not sure that scene and marketplace huge as US can be shaped by any other company. Actually, nobody has the power to do that.
Thoughts, Ryan? That's
thoughts? I don't know. I mean, in terms of currently existing markets and publishers, yeah. I probably agree. I mean, obviously, anybody can show up with a bunch of money and throw it at the problem and see if it helps. But yeah, in general, I'm not super optimistic about any of those companies properly forging the way for a better future or doing a good job of preserving those markets and expanding them.
so
They're making the job for the better future for them.
Right.
So
and that doesn't necessarily mean work for the people who make comic books,
Yeah.
that might be very different.
Well, I mean, capitalism is all I'll say to that. You know what I mean? That's kind of the it's kind of the whole way that works, because I'm pretty sure Jeffrey Bezos don't make much of Amazon work for any of his employees, and I say that as a past employee and someone who the website or the podcast, all these quests are fully available over on Amazon, right? So if that's the way you want to listen to it that way. I recommend something else, right? But that's neither here nor there. I mean, in technicality, I can recommend something all I want, but there's always going to be a CEO at the top of any of those branches that's robbing from everyone else, because there's no job that you go and work at where you're not getting robbed a little bit. I don't care if you're a comic book artist, you're working at McDonald's, you're working at anywhere you work, you're getting robbed a little bit for what you do as far as in compensation. That's just the way that
Haven't you got the memo? Comic book industry is one of the most predatory industries in the world.
Vlad, do you know some of the stories I've heard at this point? Are you kidding me? Like some of the things. Look, I don't know. I think
some of them.
I think hip hop might be a little bit more predatory, just a touch, right?
Film and music are the bigger industries, so yeah.
Well, and it's also the fact that in hip hop, you can get your teeth knocked out. It's not really,
So that's the law of the street. That's something else.
you know, it can totally be about some
8
things,
Mile
but
and all of that.
yeah, it can totally be about the loot, man. I don't, you know, things go real. But yeah, no, I know, man.
I passed the 8 Mile last year when I visited my friend in Detroit, so we went to the street. So
You
been
didn't
there on the
stop.
spot.
You
Yeah.
connected with social media and his work.
Yeah.
Look, man,
Not much, but we passed the street.
look, I've been thrown out of a straight club in Flint. All right.
Okay.
Real Michigan shit.
Yeah.
Real Michigan behavior.
Yeah, you're gonna
Classic
bring up a
Detroit
Michigan story.
race.
Bring up some. Don't say I passed 8 Mile. Be like I got kicked out of a strip club in Flint, Michigan. Yeah, that was a night. I was just there to perform, not at the strip club. But that's this. I digress way too much, right? How did this conversation get to this point?
You're the host.
We were talking. We were talking. Okay, let's get back to the to the topics and the questionnaire. I have a question for Ryan. You said that one of your favorite comic characters when you were younger was Green Lantern, and my question is, if you would get the chance to write it, have you thought about what kind of cool thing he would do with his ring? Like, what would he come up with with his mind? Because that's the coolest thing with the Green Lantern.
Here's the thing. Like, my answer to this question is like all the Jessica Cruz stuff I've been lucky enough to do. If I got another Green Lantern opportunity, I would be trying to do more Jessica Cruz stuff. I love exploring anxiety and the Yellow Lantern and all that sort of stuff. But in terms of your broad question, just Green Lantern straight up, that's why Kyle Rayner appealed to me so much when I was younger. I mean, this dude, up until this point, all the Green Lanterns were like willful people, and yet they had a ring that could
Hal
make
Jordan,
anything. Yeah, and then friggin' Kyle Rayner shows up, and he's like, "I'm a cartoonist. I draw for a living. Of course, I'm gonna make like Gundams and like crazy race cars and giant like that's what you do." Like if I had a Green Lantern, I mean, I'd have a yellow ring, obviously. But if I was like doing a ring, I'd be like big monster, giant robot, crazy Rube Goldberg machine. Freaking, no offense to Hal Jordan, great guy or whatever, but a fist, a big green fist, that's all you got? You can make anything. You can make anything. You're doing a big green fist? Be creative, buddy. We'll not talk about the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie because I haven't seen it since it came out, and I have it on good authority that it's terrible. But there is a moment in there where he like makes a sword and said, like, how very human. And I'm like, yeah, how very human. Make something interesting.
I mean, look, I've seen the Green Lantern film at one point, and he did do the whole thing where he did like a racetrack with a car.
A Hot Wheel, right? He does like a giant Hot Wheel.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's what cool. I mean, that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I think an artist would definitely always have a bit of a hand with a Green Lantern ring. Lizzie, my dog, got mad because you wanted a fear ring. Man, why you want a fear ring?
If you want to spice up the Green Lantern stuff, like, he can always project some green Lobo and like, there you go. Like you point out and you have like Lobo is doing the stuff for you as a, green blob.
No, just bring a green.
There you go. The weirdest crossover in DC ever.
Let's just bring a green Deathstroke. There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to go with, I'd say bring in a DC character, like, because I think that's one that would throw everyone off.
Slade Wilson, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you bring him up, everybody's gonna, I think, be nervous for a minute. Like, what was that? Until they realize, wait, that's a green. Yeah. Yellow. Why
does that in Identity Crisis? In that Identity Crisis trade, in that one issue that opens up with whichever the JLA is, he literally Deathstroke takes out Kyle Rayner, Wonder Woman, Zatanna. He takes out like 8 incredible leaders, and the way he does it is by like taking out Kyle right away and getting the ring and being like willpower and like messing with all of them. So, I don't know. Deathstroke rules.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that with a lantern ring would be very, very problematic. Yeah. Is there a villain out there you'd like to get your hands on as a writer?
I like the bad guys, obviously, for sure. You know, I don't know if I'd, you know, I've done Sinestro pitches before and since, but all of those are sort of like backdoor ways to do Jessica Cruz stuff. I don't know if there's like a solo villain. There's more appeal to writing those people for sure. Like I'd love to do, you know, like a Zod thing or a Riddler thing or a Scarecrow thing, as opposed to the hero focused. And when I did my issue of Batman Urban Legends, the single issue that was Batman Flash team up, it was a Batman Flash team up, but really it was a Captain Cold Mr. Freeze team up. That's what I wanted to do. I like those guys better. I was more interested in the villains for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody has like the coolest villains, it's Batman. I mean, like,
He's got good ropes.
I don't know, man. I still say Spider-Man gives him a run for his money.
yeah, Spidey has, you know, his, you know, bag of villains as well. Like, you know, those are like the two old school.
All I know is Ryan. Like you made me have to do something really screwy editing wise there. If you're ever on the show, like for a pan, when you're on for a future in a PanCon, man, we're chatting like that, and you need a moment, just go, hey, when everybody's being quiet, and be like, hey, real quick, guys, I need like 2 minutes. I'll be right back. That way I can just flip it and edit it. You're just making my job harder, Ryan. Why are you making my job harder?
Well, because I'm a prima donna and I'm a diva who needs special attention, but mainly because my roommate came home very unexpectedly and I had to explain something to him really quick.
And
before he showed up.
Don't worry, man.
You're a no. You're a prima donna, and you want to go live in the Saga universe?
Wouldn't you want to live in the Saga universe? Everything's there.
Yeah,
they got it all.
Glitter and space.
Yeah, and you know what else is in Saga? Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die. Are you serious? No, I don't want to live in Saga. Serious. I said as a normal person. That means you're just a regular human being.
Well, I want to know your answer. Where would you, as a regular person, like, because in my head, I'm like, well, every other, like, I can't pick Star Wars because I'm fucked. I'm a regular guy. I'm screwed. Can't pick Star Trek. Well, Star Trek is nice that you have like a nice, great life. But, you know, like I'm looking at just thinking about franchises. You don't want to be in the Marvel universe or the DC universe because you're in big trouble. You're collateral damage, no problem. You're done. Any superhero universe, you're doomed, you know? Best case scenario, the best you could hope for is Jimmy Olsen. No offense, love the guy. That's the best you could hope for. I don't know. So I don't know. I went with Saga because I'm like, well, it's like a crazy, insane world where like everything exists. And so I don't know. Maybe even like if you're a boring ass normal dude like me and you just go about your boring normal life, at least you get to, I don't know, do it on a planet made of cotton candy or something.
I don't. You didn't get that question.
You can be you can go and be a freedom fighter and join the resistance in Transmetropolitan.
And again,
that one is a bit of
I'm living it, man. I'm already living Transmetropolitan. I don't want to be in the extreme version of it, you know.
Okay. So real quick, Vlad, you didn't get that question on your questionnaire. Just so you know.
I didn't?
Well, dude, because you did the questionnaire hold on, man. What? You were the 34th quest, man, within the span of this. And the questionnaire has very much been updated periodically going through. As far as I'm taking questions off and then just added other questions and this and that, just back and forth. So, what Ryan, did you not notice what Ryan got was very different from what you answered?
Yeah, he did it different, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's got totally different questions. And if you look at the questionnaire that I sent out now, which I've sent out to a couple of people that have come on the show again. It's updated again. As far as my answer, I mean, I could just be real rude and be like, oh, Ryan, you want to know my answer? Go sign up for the Patreon. It's there. Because when Vlad interviewed me and we got
That's
into
an
it,
answer.
huh?
But he answered, actually. I asked him 3 questions that I wanted to ask him from his questionnaire, actually.
But wait, do you
I wanted to
remember?
find out about Alien. I wanted to find out about
Alright.
Green Lantern saga. Yeah.
But wait, do you remember the universe that I answered, Vlad? That I would live in as a normal person?
No.
Well,
I have to check my email to find your questionnaire for
the
that.
safe answer, if you just want to live, is My Little Pony, man.
Oh yeah.
That's a good answer. Dang, man.
All right? Because look, I'm good.
That's creative problem solving. That is a good answer.
Well, I also have had Tony Fleece on, who did a great deal of the art for My Little Pony. He's also doing a number of great things right now. Y'all check out his past quests, man. He's got so much on the table writing. So I always the second I added that question, I thought of the interview with Tony. And I was like, oh well, I'd go with My Little Pony because like nothing bad's gonna happen to me. I'm gonna be okay. Like any other comic book universe you pick, they're all going to be.
I had one.
Oh yeah, where would you go, Vlad? I'm curious.
I can't remember the exact name, but maybe you will remember. It's kind of like an old TV show cartoon. You know those small bears that had like superpowers in their stomach? Like everyone had.
Oh, Care Bears.
Care Bear, yeah.
All
That's
right.
a good first.
See, yeah.
It's like My Little Pony.
Yeah,
It's like the same thing.
It is.
It's older. It's better. Kind of like older generation.
I mean, because I remember that show too. Yeah, it's technically
It's from the 80s.
I don't know which came first, man. I know
you
they're
can always
both
go with
pretty good.
He-Man. I mean, like there's.
I'm not trying to get chopped in half, dude. No, I'm good. Why are you people trying to all die?
Zen Intergalactic Ninja.
Hmm.
Here's the thing, though. Like, wait a minute. If you like swear allegiance to Skeletor, though, you're fine, right? Like, if you were like, "Hey, man, I'm on your side. It's cool." Like, you're good then, right? So maybe He-Man's not that bad. Skeletor would be a good boss.
Yeah. But weren't like He-Man and Skeletor like brothers or something like that? Like, or was that like the conspiracy theory?
Is that real?
I don't know. There were theories that they were like brothers or something like that. Like, So who knows?
Let's see if Google knows.
In my brain, like the amount of space in our brains, I assume we're all this way on this podcast, that like we should have dedicated to, like, I don't know, our loved ones, the law, useful information and skills that we need to navigate the world, that we have instead dedicated to, like, I don't know, remembering who had what score in telekinesis on the back of the Marvel trading cards from 1993, who would win in a fight.
That's useful information, man. It's super niche, but it's useful.
Are you saying that if everyone that is in comics and really dedicates parts of their brains to this, say if they just dedicated it to physics instead, we'd already be like, Star Trek?
Yes, but at what cost? At what cost, I ask you? What would be the point of living in Star Trek without, like, a bunch of nonsense fictional media to be really genuinely, like, I'm not being snarky. Like, I don't want to live in a utopia that doesn't have, like, comic books and like stuff to be obsessed with. Yeah.
And funnily enough, if you think about it, I'm pretty sure Captain Picard would agree with you.
I think he would too. Captain Picard also hates fun. I posit to you, would also hate Deadpool. And
No, look. Picard would hate Deadpool. Picard would hate Deadpool, just like Steve Rogers hates Deadpool. Okay.
All right, that's fair. I'll give you that.
Yeah. He wouldn't he wouldn't just hate. He would hate him the same way Steve Rogers does. Like, you're such an asset, and you're such an a-hole, and you're such a dude. Can you just calm down for 5 minutes? No, you can't. Dude, look, I really need you to go shoot this guy, okay? And I know you can do it. Can you please go shoot this guy? He's gonna go shoot that guy. That would be the relationship that Wade Wilson and Picard would have.
Oh God. Here is one thing about Star Trek that you can apply in real world. Prime directive.
Oh wow. Okay, no, I want to hear. Hang on. I want explain this. Explain this. Actually, explain the prime. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? That is a good thing that we should follow.
Hey, I haven't said it's a good thing, but like you can apply that rule into like a real world. Like you can go and say the weird quirky thing about comic books to somebody who never knew comic books existed and change their role. Like,
don't tap on the glass. You're saying?
Yeah, man. It's a basic thing. Yeah, but like you can apply that to the most common thing in life, like alter people's lives like this on a regular basis, like open the mind for something new. So metaphorically speaking, but that's kind of like application of prime directive. Like they fly over some world where they have like sticks and stones and they see the spaceship and there you go, that's the next god for that world, that kind of stuff, but like applied on a smaller scale on a daily lives of everyday pedestrian.
I don't know. I try and do that all the time, Vlad. Like all the time. I'm like, you should read comics. Oh, you don't like superheroes? That's fine. What are you into? Let me recommend you a book. I promise you won't find a
Such
single
a prime directive clerk.
Yeah, like you won't find a single type within the comic I recommend you if that's what you don't want. It's not that difficult, man, because I'm a firm believer there is a comic out there for everyone. You know what I mean? I mean, it's reached so many different markets, so many different. It touches on so many different things, man. So I'm curious, Ryan, what made you decide to go werewolf with your webcomic?
Oh, horror is the genre that I just feel most comfortable in. And I don't remember when I came up with Wolfsbane. It's old. It's technically it's the first creator-owned book I ever had accepted. I think Line Webtoon approved our contract in like 2015, 2016. So it's in terms of development, it's older. But I don't know. I just I like vampires and werewolves pretty equally, but I feel like I wanted to do like a Cormac McCarthy horror story. I love his writing. I love his literature, and something that was like brutal and poetic and beautiful and American. I don't know, but werewolves just made sense to me, and the idea of the change and the man versus beast thing. I don't know. That was one of those stories that just sort of it had to be werewolves. I wasn't like time to tell a werewolf story. I was like, I guess she's hunting werewolves.
That's your spirit animal.
I just like I'm like full on American Werewolf in London. Start like transforming right now. But yeah, I don't know. I love them. I love horror. There's not a monster I dislike. I love them all.
Look, if you can end the podcast transforming into a werewolf, please, Ryan, end the podcast transforming into a werewolf.
It would make me so happy. Nothing would make me happier than to satisfy you in this moment, or even if I had thought, like, I definitely own like some vampire fangs, or even if I had thought to have them and I could just like pop up like this and suddenly I have fangs and like we make my eyes weird.
Firstly, I'm pretty sure if you went full werewolf and just transformed to werewolf, I'm pretty sure your roommate wouldn't be very happy about it in the entirety of the situation. I'm just saying, like, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be the first dude you eat.
Well, then he's not going to be unhappy for very long. I don't know, he should have checked. He should have asked some questions before we moved into this place. Okay. This is when you work. You you have these things, you don't do this, you don't do this. Do you have lycanthropy? Will you turn into a wolf come full moon? And I would have said, yeah, sorry, be out of the house or I'm gonna fucking eat you. I'm gonna gosh dang eat you. That's the full moon. I didn't mean to curse there. That's the lupine influence. We're a very, very angry species. How?
Well, maybe your roommate is a species of Suki.
What?
The True Blood Suki, the main character.
Oh, Suki. You mean Suki?
Suki, yeah. Yeah, the fairy dust.
Yeah, no, I remember. I've seen every season of True Blood except for the last one.
Well,
We don't talk about the last season.
I love the show. It was a good show.
Why do you not talk about the last season? Because I
don't know. I know it's just like I know that it's like was made during one of the writers' strikes, and it's generally like I know that show is generally pretty schlocky, but I know that like people are very unhappy with the last season, and by coincidence, I didn't watch it when it came out, and so like every time I've rewatched the show, like with like a partner or a friend or something, I've just been like, okay, and I guess we stop now, because there's gonna be like vampire ninjas or something. We don't need to go into all that.
So you got a vampire ninja story you're writing? Is that what you're telling us? That's why you don't want to watch that, so it doesn't influence the story that you're working on?
Hang on, sorry. I need to make some adjustments to a script. More vampire.
Yeah, I think.
Hey, wait, Ryan, and you adjusting your script, you muted yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the most tech savvy guy because I write comic books, so I'm living in the past, baby.
That past to the future, present or something like that. The X-Men stuff. Yeah. But I mean, you can't go wrong with vampires and werewolves like that. Those like universal archetypes, like especially like pair that with LA, like some goth, like glitter, like all of that stuff, like the place where dreams go to be born and die, and all of that like transformation, and you get a really cool story.
It is definitely a very, very interesting lore to reach into, Ryan. I mean, it's something, and I mean, if you with horror, it's funny how many characters that you can touch right now that are free use because everything that's just available. I know we just had Frank Martin on. He's doing like Grimm. He's taking a lot of the Grimm Brothers tales and putting them in his face. So that's interesting, man. I'd be very curious to see somebody take all like the classic Universal monsters, or at least the ones you're allowed to play with. I think it's pretty much all of them, and like throw all that into space. That'd be intriguing.
Well, me and Andrea Muti actually were just talking about a vampire in space story, so we'll see if it ever comes of anything. But
no.
But exactly what you're saying.
But you gotta throw in Frankenstein, the Mummy, the creature from the Black Lagoon. You gotta just
the old
just
ones.
start winging them all in there, man. Werewolf, and just put them all on a spaceship, and they're just like float. I'm just making random pitches now, and you can do whatever you want with it, Ryan. I don't even care.
If Andrea isn't coloring the story, you guys.
Dracula's the captain of the ship. What is it? Is maybe the bride of Frankenstein the first officer? Frankenstein is the science officer. I don't know. I guess Invisible Man's in charge of security because he's like a fucked up, messed up dude. But that means
he's a stalker. Yeah,
dude.
warrior.
Well, he would make. I think it'd be kind of funny if you had the Invisible Man doing navigation. Because the guy that's getting you where you're trying to get to, you can never see him.
He's like, it's over there. Trust me.
And Frankenstein can be a mechanic because he can go because he's the undead. He can go everywhere.
So silly, Vlad. I can't believe I didn't jump there. Obviously, Frankenstein is like by the warp core. I don't know why this is a Star Trek ship, but it is.
I mean, he can absorb the radiation and everything. Like he can throw in his hand and
Of
fix the
course,
core.
he's fine. It doesn't do anything to him. That genius. Let's contact Roddenberry right now. We need to make this happen.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess the show's going to end with a pitch of a comic that's going to happen. That's kind of intriguing. But I do want to let you all know, if you enjoyed this interview, right, do me a favor. Check out all the links in the description, right? You can find all of Ryan's work. Ooh, about lost some, but I found it. It was behind King Kong. What are you going to do? Check out Alan Henry's interview, right? But that's neither here nor there. If you did enjoy this interview with Ryan, man, what I want you to do, right, is I want you to send him a bunch of Twix, some buffalo chicken pizza, good choices, right? And I want you to have those delivered by a vampire riding a dragon, right? Right? Right?
That sparkles.
Perfect night. That's a perfect night.
I mean, yeah, Now, if for some reason you didn't enjoy this interview, and Ryan said something that just torched you the wrong way. Firstly, I don't know how you got all the way to the end of the interview. I don't know why you didn't just turn it off a while ago. Maybe you're just rage watching. If so, hey, that's fine. I appreciate y'all watching, right? But if you want to torture the man, right? What I want you to do is send him every mythological creature, right? All smelling of old, terrible, rotten eggs to tie him down and make him on repeat watch La La Land again and again and again. So sure, Ryan, you learned of the magic, but that's what the magic gave you, right? Besides that, like I said,
Well,
sorry.
you are bonded with the guy, so you share a name.
Sorry, man. That's just what happens. Hopefully they enjoyed it and they don't go to all that, because really, that'd be a lot to do if they wanted to torture you, But if you do also enjoy, you can always just bring Ryan a caddy or a Twix or a piece of buffalo chicken pizza out when you see him at the con, right? But besides that, I just want you all to do 3 things for me, right? 1, give it that thumbs up. 2, always get your comic on. 3, have a good night, y'all.
This has been the questionnaire.
Where's the link?
Thanks for checking out the questionnaire.
In the link below, yes?
I will drop it like it's hot.
That's another party.
It's cool, man. I love it.
The questionnaire. That is all.